Welcome, everyone, on this July 9th. Can you believe it? We're 7 months into the year. Amazing. So welcome to Heart and Soul, How to Live an Extraordinary Life. And my name is Michele Landers, and I'm a board-certified life coach, a certified hypnotherapist, a numerologist, the author of 2 books, The Tao of Numbers and The Year of Living Miraculously. And I love what I do. I've studied and taught in the fields of spirituality and metaphysics, psychology, law of attraction, and self-empowerment for over 30 years. And it's hard for me to believe that it's really been that long. And what a ride. But it's been exciting. And I'm lucky to be doing what I do, what I love to do, my passion. So every week on Heart and Soul, we have thought-provoking topics and speakers who share their experience and insights. And hopefully there are things that you can take away to make your life just a little bit easier and uplift your life and your thinking. And if you want to subscribe to my email as a bonus, I can send you this free ebook about numerology. So if you want to know that, you can text something or write something in the comments, and I'll get back to you. So we love to share information with you because here on Enlightened World Network, light workers, energy practitioners, and more have gathered together to bring you positive and uplifting program. And Lord knows we need that these days, all to support you. And it supports us as well in your spiritual, your mental, and your emotional growth. And there is such a variety of spiritual programming on Enlightened World Network that I'm just amazed at the wonderful, wonderful women and men that are on there as well. I don't want to forget the guys that are on there that are doing such a wonderful job. And they're all so heart-centered. And I've found my home, and I'm very, very, very grateful. So please check out Enlightened World Network, which you can find online, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So my guest tonight is Deb Goldberg. But before I introduce you to the ever so delightful Deb Goldberg, I just love her, I want to tell you just a little bit about Deb. She's a retired therapist who practiced for 18 years. And during that time, she provided treatment for mental health and substance abuse. And I know that is a tough, tough field. And Deb's worked in a variety of settings, and now she's in private practice as a divine therapist and spiritual teacher. Now, Deb was spiritually awakened by Jesus and was taught God's universal divine love and wisdom. And Deb says that these conversations understandably transformed her life and set her on a course of self-discovery through divine introspection with God. She believes that you can't heal or understand your true identity without the love and truth that comes from a one-on-one intimate relationship with divine love. And this will ultimately lead you to your divine calling. And her priority is connecting people to the divine relationship of oneness within, as this will end that faulty belief that we have of any separation from God. And that's what creates pain and suffering. Now, Deb is also a video podcast host on Angel Heart Radio and on Enlightened World Network. So you can catch her on here at other times. She's also involved in programming for Enlightened World Network, and she participates in a number of live video broadcasts. And Deb is helping others to understand the journey of divine self-discovery and wisdom. And she brings that divine knowledge and experience of her own awakening into her work to inspire healing, love, joy, purpose, and creativity to each of us as we work through our journey home. And I got to tell you, I love Deb and I love her energy, and I'm so glad to have her on tonight. So thank you, Deb, for being here, and welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here with you. I feel so grateful that we've been put together a few times to get to know each other. And I've had you on my show too. And it's
Yes.
it is a lovely relationship.
It is. It is. Thank you. So, Deb, I would love for you to share a little bit about your experience, and also what I wanted to talk about tonight was the divine relationship. And that is something I think we all need to know a little bit more about, and that we need to understand. And also, I thought we would touch on the dark night of the soul. And I just recently sent out a newsletter about it because I was having kind of a bad day. And sometimes I just work out things on paper, and it turned out really well. By the end of the newsletter, I was feeling great, and I was hoping that everybody else was too. So just share with us a little bit about your experience and this relationship that is so important.
Oh my, thank you. I appreciate the time to do this, because I know that when I talk to people, they really want to be able to connect and hear God or spirit, whatever they call divine love. And for me, it was the first time I meditated, which was almost 6 years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was at a workshop. And I think this is really important. What was different with me at this time, because I was not spiritually seeking. I was 56 when I woke up. And I knew there was a God, but I didn't know really what that was. But I felt this presence with me. And then I went through some conflict with my son and his wife. And I was so upset that I was having relationship struggles and conflict with them, because that's not what I wanted. And for the first time in my life, I started asking, what am I doing that's creating my own pain?
Mm,
What am I doing that is creating this?
mm.
And because I started to take responsibility and I really wanted to know, it kind of like blew open my mind to receive. And here I am sitting in this meditation, and it was to meet your spiritual guide. And Jesus shows up. And now I did not understand that it was
Wow.
Jesus when I first connected. I'm Jewish, and I didn't really have a reference of Jesus other than knowing what I know from Christianity. So all I knew is that the way I felt with his presence, because I could see him, and he did some interactions with me that in that meditation in my mind,
Wow.
it just unfolded like a movie. And I was sitting there going, I don't know what's happening in my mind, but oh my God, this was the most amazing experience I ever had. And the love, the profound love that came through, I knew this is something I've never felt before.
Wow.
And I still did not understand what was happening. I didn't understand what a spiritual awakening was, because I had not been I wasn't searching.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. It's so interesting because, the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open up, when you really, really deep in your heart want to know, you will get an answer. I believe that. So please continue, though.
It was I was in this workshop when it happened, and I thought, well, what are other people having for experiences? Because I don't know what I just witnessed. I don't know what just happened. And I thought, well, I was a therapist at the time. I was a licensed therapist, and I
Right.
thought, whatever this is was so profound. I am going to do this meditation with everyone when I go back to work.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so even though I didn't really know what I was doing, I felt that I needed to do this with everyone so that they could have their own experience of divine love.
Wow.
And
Wow.
probably about a couple of weeks in after I got home from that workshop, I thought, I'm sitting here with this person who everybody tells me is Jesus, but I was still not acknowledging that.
Oh, you
And
weren't.
no, because I didn't know how to conceptualize him, and I couldn't understand. The only thing that I knew through Christianity was Christ. So I'm like, why is Jesus here? I just spent all this time trying to figure out what is he here for me for? Like it was just so foreign, and I'm not that religion, and so I couldn't understand.
Oh my God.
But I kept saying, it feels so good. I'm meditating every day, and I'm sitting with him, and I wondered, how come we're not talking? How come I don't hear him? How come we're not talking? And something inside of me said, just say hello. And so in the meditation, I just looked at him and I said hi. And that was it. The conversations just took off.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and then eventually he dictated all these books to me on why we're here and who we are. So Jesus was bringing me universal love, understanding God, understanding universal love from higher consciousness. He was not talking to me about religion. He was not talking to me as Christ. He was and so this was very interesting for me because I kept asking God, and it took years. I'm like, how do you want me to conceptualize Jesus? Because it was creating so much conflict within myself because I couldn't fit him into a box of what I experienced with him and then what everybody teaches outside of who Jesus is.
So you felt there was a conflict on what people taught or what you heard about Jesus and then what you were experiencing.
Yeah. So eventually God just told me he's your brother. He's just your brother.
It's just your brother.
He's your brother, and that's all the way
That's all you need to.
that's all you need to know, and that's the only way you need to see him. And his love, it feels like a big brother, and that just fits so well with my experience of him. Yet I see, I went through periods of like, okay, so this is Christ, this is Jesus Christ, but it never felt that way. It always felt like my brother, and the beautiful lessons and healing, and then God came through, and then I was talking to God all the time, and then the angels, and it was the most magnificent experience of really unlearning who I was, what I learned about myself from my experience here.
Wow.
And being retaught, I call it being spiritually reparented or divinely reparented, to understand yourself and others from a divine perspective. It's overwhelming love, it's bliss, it is fun, because God has quite a sense of humor.
Yeah, we kind of know that, but I do can I interrupt? Because I do have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
And and anybody else has some questions, please type them in. So you said that, so what was your concept of Jesus before this? Did you have an idea of what Jesus was? Was that even something it's just a name you heard,
Well,
or?
I had friends that were Christian, and I've heard Jesus, Jesus Christ and who he was. So I knew the story of Jesus Christ. But when he showed up in my meditation, he didn't look like Jesus. He looked like he was wearing a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans.
Oh, dear Lord.
and he had darkish hair down here, and he looked like he was in his 30s. So I have no conception really of understanding Jesus in the way that Christians actually
Right.
believe in Jesus.
He's blonde and blue-eyed in the Christian. So
anyway, it was, for me, it was hilarious because my inner child kept telling me, this is Jesus. And I kept saying, how do you know that? Like, what do you mean it's Jesus? And she just kept saying, it's Jesus. And I went, okay, all right. And so what's really interesting, what I found out is, we're all here having this story, this dream life. It's a story. And so part of my story, because it's not just Jesus, it's John the Baptist, it's King Solomon, it is archangels that show up. I spent a lot of time with John the Baptist. And so I kept asking, why am I having all my spirit guides are like Christian type of biblical people? And Jesus, so this is the story. Jesus said I walked with him back then in another life, and that I was continuing to work on similar issues in this life. And so he was here to continue the story of what I was working on.
Okay, wait 1 minute. Jesus was working on some issues
with me.
Oh, I'm just asking you, did Jesus, because now this story is getting even more interesting. So, was Jesus working on his own issues in any lifetimes?
He did not talk to me so much about that. I know, and there's a whole nother thing I believe about past lives, because I also know that's part of the story too. It's also part of the dream that there's past lives.
Right.
So he talked to me about some of his life growing up, which is in one of my books that I haven't put out yet.
Okay.
And I've asked him what it was like to be on the cross, and whether he knew what was coming. And so he had talked a little bit about knowing that he was meant to do something important, but he had no idea that his role that he played would have turned out like it has today. Like he had not that expansive awareness of it, that he eventually knew that something was going to happen, that he was going to die. And he said, no, I didn't want to die, but that is what he understood his role was in this, in his life. And
story.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit that I've also seen him and talked to him when he was about 12. So I saw him as a young child too. And he talked about herding, like
yes, herding.
Yeah, he did some of that too. So there's all these little lovely little tidbits that he's given me. But it was really important, and he said to me that my life, my story here, is not about defending who Jesus was or saying he's this or that. It is about, this is just my experience with him. And each person is going to have their own experience when they wake up to divine love. You're having a story, an experience anyway, and then you have an awakening experience, and it's going to be unique to you. So my thing is not getting into debating who Jesus was, or defending him in any way. It is more of him being this beautiful older brother teacher to me, and has taught me God's wisdom, and that it's my role to bring forth God's messages.
That's just that's beautiful. And I am curious, I don't know if Jesus shared this with you, but did he ever mention, because we're a lot of, well, all of us know the story that we've been told of Jesus on the cross. Did he tell you what that message was?
Well, we had the discussion because it also falls into Passover. And so it's,
Yes.
that whole story revolves around what became Easter, and Passover. And once I got to know Jesus and spent all this time with him, that when it came around, you know Good Friday and all of that time of year, and then I'd start watching all of these movies and learning more about how Jesus is thought about in the Christian world. And I would just go to pieces when I'd watch a movie and see him on a cross and watch what happened. And he told me he did not want me to focus on that I needed to focus on the fact that he rose. And that is what is more important, because there's so many metaphors involved in his story on the cross, of really showing us that you don't die, and that you have eternal life, and that what he teaches me is I am one with him, just like everybody else is, and one with God, just like everybody else. There's only one, and we are just all like images of creation from the Creator. So as consciousness, where it's all consciousness.
It's all consciousness.
It's all God is consciousness. It's energy. It's love, and we're all here having this experience, and it's supposed to be fun. And
it's not.
it doesn't always
okay. I'm in for. I'm a number 3 life path, so I'm all about joy and fun. Except it's not been my definition of fun all the time recently. It's been challenging, and my interpretation, and I guess we all have an interpretation of the crucifixion and the rising up, was yes, no death, but I interpreted it as reincarnation. But what you're telling me, and I get that too, it's all a story, and it's a story that we're all making up together as we go, I believe.
Well, so this is what I'm taught. And everybody, when you listen to divine truth, you are going to have your own truth. Each person is here for their own unique reason. We're here as a collective to do something together. But what is most important is your guidance, your curriculum that God has for you, because you have a role to play, an appointment, or whatever you want to call it, a divine calling. And everybody's role is very important. Now, so the truth that somebody else gets in their divine downloads will be different from other people. So when I speak of these things, this is what I am taught, is that this illusion has been created for us, and that It has been created through creation. God is having this, there's only one of us here, it's God, showing up in different faces. And God is moving through you as if you are a character in a book and you are a story. And that it is a dream. It is all a dream. You never left home. You are still consciousness. You are still pure love. You are purity. You are holy. You are sacred. And for some reason, we experience this earthly life, this earthly illusion that we are having a life here. And that, so it's so expansive. And what we do, we love this mystery because everybody's always trying to figure out, how does this work and how does this happen and whatever. And it's so expansive that we can't understand God's ways. But we are all here to shine love and light and remind each other to wake up. That, and you are shining God's love and light because that's all that there is. That's all you are. You are a reflection of the beautifulness of consciousness. And so, yeah, there's a story. So it's really creative. And we're going along having this story. And you get to choose how you're going to perceive things. You get to choose how you're going to go about something, whether you're going to go right, whether you're going to go left. So you're making all of these choices. But, you know, there's only one point in time. There is no time. There's no space. And so everything is happening all at once. This dream is happening all at once. So that my whole self right now, I'm every age that I've experienced. I'm in the womb, I'm 5, I'm 10, I'm 20. So I'm having this whole experience as my whole being. And God's in control of it all because God wrote the story. We helped write it because there is no separation.
That's what I also wanted to, because my belief is that we're in co-creation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We are in co-creation. And the more that you spend time in divine love, in talking to God, or whoever you call what divine love is. And I refer to God as male because that's the way he shows up to me in my images. Right. And that was from my own story, from my own healing, masculine issues from my past. And so God, the more time you spend, you start to understand that there's only oneness because all it is consciousness. And the higher you go in your consciousness, which he controls too, when the veil gets lifted and you go, oh, that's interesting. I see it in a different way now. God keeps pulling the veil up because God is you. God is you having an experience through you. What we have trouble with is we don't know how to accept that. We don't know how to accept our divinity. We don't know how to accept the oneness. We would rather accept ego consciousness than
it separates us.
Yeah.
Because the ego, which is what I always talk about, is the ego doesn't understand at all oneness. It only understands things in measurement. I'm better than you, I'm worse than you. But there's always that separation, and the ego's afraid of dying. Mm-hmm. And the ego is always acting out of this fear. At least that's my perception of it, my interpretation. And I don't think that it's, as you mentioned, which is, a big, I don't know if it's really an issue so much as, yeah, it's so challenging to wrap our mind around that concept of, we talk about it, we talk about oneness, mm-hmm. but to fully understand that, I don't even know if we're really capable of completely grasping that concept, although there have been times in meditation where I felt that, and it was, there's no words to describe it for me. There was no words. Love didn't cover it. Awe inspiring didn't cover it. It was, you know, it's, I can't use words to describe that feeling. And that, I don't even know if it's a feeling. It's just is, you know. So I think to address that is, you know, when you talk about infinity, we always want to put a wall up. Okay, so infinity goes so far, and then there's a wall. No. And it's the same concept here. You know, time, there is no time. Everything is happening at the same time. And I love about what you said about being all ages. I really would like to be showing up as 32 though right now. You know, that was a good age for me. I like that age. So it's so wonderful to talk about these concepts and to let people know that it is challenging to wrap your mind around this idea of oneness. It's, and if we can just maybe consider it and ask God, show me how that would feel, you know, open my eyes to that. I want to know that. I want to know that love. And so I think that's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It is beautiful. And what's important is as you spend time with God, you're getting taught what you need to get taught.
Right.
And the more time you spend wanting to be in that, centered into that connection, you will start to feel oneness, but it is elusive. It is very difficult to keep it, like what you're saying. So I've experienced it too. It is one of the focuses that I get asked to remind myself that of oneness. And because we are in having this human life, I'm asked to use light as a symbol because we want to make everything simple. You don't know how to deal with nothingness and or invisibility and
right.
and energy is, you know, invisible. So you don't know how to
right.
you don't know how to grasp onto that. So I get to ask to use light as a form of creating oneness. But the healing that happens from understanding who you truly are and going through healing experiences that you've had, because this is what happens. They sat with me and went through every single experience I had that created a lot of pain for me, and the faulty beliefs that I had that created a lot of pain for me. And it doesn't mean that they all went away, but all of the hurtful experiences have been healed. It is every now and then you get these faulty beliefs that is from ego consciousness, which we know is not real. Right. It is an illusion too. But so, you know, by spending time there, you have your own little healing department inside of you that can heal you from anything if you allow it to.
I agree. And I think maybe we can give some tips as well. I know I have some tips and I'm sure you do too. I do want to, I know that there are some people, I'm glad that Terry's watching and Hope is watching and Beverly and Sita, and I can't see everybody else, whoever else might be on there, but I just wanted to say hi and thank you for showing up tonight. We really appreciate that. And we'd love, any comments that you have or any questions. I wrote because of this situation that we're in, the COVID-19, and I know that probably a lot of us thought, well, that we'll be in this for maybe a couple of months, and now we're literally we are 7 months in, because it did start here in January. There are a few isolated cases, and now it's like, well, okay, this, what we had imagined that might happen is now we're in the thick of it. So there are some people that are actually doing okay. They financially haven't really been affected. There are some businesses that have actually prospered and are prospering. And so there are people out there that are not having any physical problems. Their family is fine. So their health is fine. Their finances are fine. And this is just, for an introvert, as I've said, this is an introvert's dream, Yay, that's my granddaughter. How do you feel about it? I'm loving it. I'm loving being home. But that is a segment of society, and they're doing okay. For the vast majority, not so much. And it is, I would think that for some people, it's like the dark night of the soul. And I've been through a few dark nights of the soul, and it is exactly that. You feel helpless and frustrated, but more than that, you feel hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
And when there is no hope, there is no life. And when I mean life, I mean this energy and this connection. Because when you lose your hope and you have lost your connection to God,
Mm-hmm.
and that usually plunges us into this state of we can get very, very despondent. And sometimes people try to put on a happy face, but they're feeling like and I tell people, if you're not feeling, you don't have to walk around. People I know think sometimes when you're honest, conscious, everybody's on a spiritual path, but when you are on a conscious spiritual path, you always have to be happy. Not so. We're human. And I always use your friend Jesus, by the way, and my friend brother as an example. He had some really bad days. And when you're incarnated, or whatever the word is now, in a human form, in the illusion of a human form, you're going to have some shitty, in plain English, excuse me, but you're not going to have, every day is not going to be great. And I do believe that one of the things you have to do is, in our head, we go, well, how can I fix this? I want to fix it. I got to do something. I can't do this anymore. And we want to resist those uncomfortable feelings. And my suggestion is love it. Love those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Say, just love those feelings, acknowledge them, be with it, and just love. Anything that is dark cannot survive in the light. They can't. So that's why I say love whatever that feeling is. And then, start taking a little bit of an inventory of everything that you can think of and some of the things you can control in your life. What's going on? You're eating, you're right, or you're sleeping right. Just do the laundry list. And as I said, acknowledging your feelings is the most important thing. And then, of course, and we hear this all the time, but honestly, it really does work, is make a gratitude list of just the things that you are so grateful for. Did you get up this morning? Do you have food on the table? Whatever that, do you have shelter, friends, family? Mm-hmm. And finally, one of the prayers that I really like is from A Course in Miracles, and it's really beautiful. To God, or to the divine, whatever it is that you identify with, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? And just turn it over. Just turn it over, and ask the ego to take a seat. I know that you think you're trying to protect me, or what, whatever the ego, you think the ego's um, motivation is, but it is to keep you alive because it's so fearful of death. But just say to the ego, you know what? I just really need you to take a break. I'm going to handle this with God right now, and we'll get through this, and just let go, which is probably one of the hardest things to do, but it really, really works. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where, when I finally accepted where I was, loved those feelings that I had, and turned it over to God, and had faith and trust that my life didn't change, and miracles happen, and miracles, people show up, things show up, messages. So those are some of my tips. And I know that you have some beautiful tips too, Deb.
Yeah, those are hard places to be. I have been there in the past, and even from younger, I had trauma in my background, so I didn't have that connection that I have now. I wasn't aware of it, because you always have the connection. You're just not listening, and because God's always talking to you. And, I did all kinds of crazy things to try to cope with my life. One of my biggest lessons in understanding how things work on a divine level is, like you're saying, you have to accept where you are, accept it and allow it. And you can't change this situation of how things are right now in the world, except for claiming peace for yourself. You claim peace for yourself, you claim peace for the world, because you are the world. You are one with the world. And that we have to really stop looking outside of ourselves to expect to see some change right away, because you've created peace inside of you. The other thing I've learned is, because I did a lot of banging heads with myself. I don't want to hear those thoughts. I don't want to hear those ego thoughts. I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to. And so there's all of this conflict was happening inside of me, or, well, how come I'm not there? Or how come I'm over here? We have these thoughts that bombard us. And the only way that I know to stop them is, like you said, that prayer works for you. There's so many different prayers. All you really have to do is say, God, I need some help right now. Right. Please help me. Please help quiet my mind. Please help me understand what this is all about, why this is happening in my life. And as you go through all of your different stages of awakening, you are going through different processes of you understanding how much you're also creating things by your own perception. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like, somebody can look at the same thing happening and have completely different perceptions about it.
Yes.
And so your perception of how you are coping or looking at any situation is going to affect you dramatically. So if you look at it and you say, oh, this shouldn't be happening. This should not be happening. I can't accept this. Well, you are just setting yourself up for some big problems, because you're starting an energetic resistance within yourself. And really what we're alchemists with energy. Yes. And it's learning how to balance your energy. And there was so many times when I first woke up and everything was coming up to be healed, and it felt like the dark night of the soul. I was so scared out of my mind because I didn't let myself feel for 56 years. And so all of a sudden I'm feeling everything, and I did not know why or how to cope with that or how to process it. And if I did not anchor myself into God and Jesus, I don't know what would have happened. And so your job really is to go back home. Every moment of the day is to stay centered and be anchored in your home and into divine love, because that's the only place you're going to get anything that makes any sense. You're only going to get, you're going to get divine truth helping you understand your perspective. Sort of like, okay, so I said to God, what is all this COVID stuff? What is this? I want to know what it is. What is it? And part of me was like, oh my God, I'm scared, or what is this? And the other part of me knows it's an illusion, and you have to take care of those other parts of you that are fearful, like you said, is bringing self-love and compassion to yourself, because there's so many different aspects of ourselves, and there is a peanut gallery, and it just keeps, one part of you saying this and the other part saying that, and you're all over the place, and you're having
monkey mind.
Yeah,
I always call it the monkey mind, and everybody's vying for attention, feed me, take care of me, do this, do everything. Everybody, and all those monkeys in my mind want to do something.
Yeah.
They don't want to be, they just want to do.
Right. So it's learning really how to sit and be in the minutia of all of that, right, and hear God talk to you. Mm-hmm. And when you get better and better at discerning whose voice is God's voice. And I was talking about this yesterday. You hear God's voice in your own voice. So a lot of times you don't even realize that it's God speaking to you. You think you're having your own thoughts, but there's only one thought and there's only one mind. But because we hear the peanut gallery, we think that there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So anchoring yourself in, and this is really a commitment. It is a commitment to say, okay, what am I here for? What is my life about? And the only way you're going to get the true answer is by going inside and hearing that from within. And what is the next step? So when I said, what's this COVID about? I was told to just accept it as it is, that I need not feed into it. I don't need to fear it. I just need to allow it, accept it, and that I don't take it forward into my days of fear, having to be afraid of it.
Absolutely. But that doesn't mean, I know there's a lot of controversy out there about whether you wear a mask or you don't wear a mask. I think, well, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to leave it with what you just said. There really isn't anything to fear. And that, I don't know. I think we should expand on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay. It doesn't mean you take any type of, silly kind of risks or anything like that. I think, unless, here's another thing, and I'm just going to swing over to this for a minute. If you have a strong belief deep in your heart of anything, it's going to be so. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that without a doubt. Mm-hmm. And somebody said to me one day, and this is, some people might react to this, but I think it's important to mention. Somebody said to me, so do you mean that if I drank bleach and I knew that wouldn't put me into the next life, that it wouldn't? And I said, absolutely. But here's the little caveat. There's no one on this planet as evolved as evolved enough, as far as I know, that doesn't have that niggling belief that if I drink bleach, I'm going to die.
Mhm.
But if you don't have the belief, and I always try to drive that point home, because you can see it in anybody's life, what their beliefs are. You can see how their life is turning out, and you can tell, you can pretty much know what their beliefs are. I know that's for myself for sure. So belief is a huge driving force in our lives. So it's not to ignore what's going on, but it's to, for me at least, it's to surround COVID and the earth with love. And again, just love it. And that doesn't mean loving it is not going to make it grow. You know, people get confused about that. Well, if I love it, it's going to grow. No, that's not what this is about. When you love it, then it can turn into something that is love. And whether that means going away or whatever that means, but it's not going to be, we're not going to keep it, we keep it growing and moving and expanding by all of this resistance and fear about it. At least that's my belief.
Mhm. Yeah, when you're talking, I'm thinking of it as more love is a state of being, it's not a doing. Love is a state of being that you are in because you connect with divine love, and that's all that divine love is a state of being. And so when you connect in with that and just stay in that state and stay in the state of peace, and this is what shifts everything. It's not that you're going out and you're saying, oh, I love you, or I love the flower, or I love the tree, or I love, it's about holding a space of love, of being within yourself. And this is what you get taught when you connect, because you feel it. You know what it feels like then. And you get taught to learn how to do that yourself, because after all, it is your divine nature. It is who you are. The other thing with fear is, it doesn't mean that I don't get fearful at times of things, but I keep shifting back to, all right, God, here's what's going on. Help me with this. And I have to anchor into the truth that I have been taught and the knowingness inside of myself. Jesus has told me over and over again that I need to stop looking outside of me for validation, that I need to remember everything I've been taught. It is in my knowingness of what I know. And that is what I need to use as my intuition, not what I'm seeing outside. However, that doesn't mean that I would go walk in fire. It doesn't mean that I will put my hand on fire just because I know it's an illusion. There's certain things that I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's silly, right? I'm not going to jump off the bridge. And so even though I don't have a fear of dying, and I don't have a fear of dying because I've been explained and seen where I live, where my true home is, and I know who God is, then I don't have that fear. Do I want to leave right now? Not really. Other times I've asked to be taken home.
I've been there. Yes, I get that.
Yeah, and that's another part of that dark night of the soul where you want to leave, but it's not. If it's not your time, it is being, oh my gosh, in such a place where you feel so alone and separate, and that you feel like you are in a pit that you cannot crawl out of, and it's all in our mind. It is such a mind game. And when you learned that there's no truth to that, it is because we've been listening to ego thoughts, is how we get there.
Absolutely.
We listen to ego thoughts and it just takes you down and down and down and down. And so learning that those thoughts need to just be ignored, that they're not real. And so as you keep going along in your process, you get stronger and stronger and more confident of knowing who you are and knowing the peace that lives within inside of yourself, that everything that you do, you have God walking with you inside of you. Actually, telling you what to do. It is being narrated to you.
Yes, if you will listen, that's the thing. And discernment is, and for me, the way I began to be able to discern, well, first, the way I was able to discern is you can feel it physically as well. It's an intuitive thing, but you can feel it physically as well. In situations, is this the right thing to do? Isn't this the right thing to do? I mean, it's all right anyway, but let's just, in this illusion that we're in, and I can feel it physically. If it's the right thing, there's a peace. There's no ego involvement with, it's not even being overly excited or it's just a peaceful feeling like this is the right thing. This is because as you said, we're always communicating with the divine. But I will say, if I would suggest anything, is to learn how to meditate for sure. For me, that is the one way to shut off that monkey mind. And I think some people think, I hear this all the time. I hear this from clients, I can't meditate. Well, they haven't, they have this over zealous idea, I guess, of, oh my God, if I meditate, then I'm going to have to do this and I'm going to have to do that. Like it feels hard for them. And meditating is just, putting things aside, getting quiet. Thoughts will come into your head. Just watch them, just acknowledge them, watch them go. Try a guided meditation if that will help you to settle down a little bit. Do it for 5 minutes, do it for 10 minutes. It's like this big Megillah for some people, and they wind up not doing anything because they think they can't do it at all. So it's just getting some quiet time, Everybody can squeeze in 5 or 10 minutes a day. And yes, you will have thoughts, but just watch them float by.
Yeah, and that's great advice, because that's what I do, is meditate. But what also I've learned is breathing, deep breathing. And deep breathing will always bring you down, take you off the ceiling, and calm down whatever is going on inside of you. But I know in my mind that I go through periods of time where the chatter is just overwhelming. And I've said to Jesus, just make it stop. Just make it stop. And he would say, you just need to bring more love to yourself. And I would say, well, I did that. I just did that. And he said, well, do some more. You need to bring some more love, and then bring some more love, and bring some more love, and bring some more love. And there is this resistance that we don't want to sit there and keep bringing love to ourselves. It's like, is it enough? Is it enough? And there is no end to it, of learning how to self-love and have compassion. Michele, we have some questions, or we have people saying things here, awesome comments, and I thought maybe we should
address them.
Yeah.
Sure. Great. I don't see all of them. I see some greetings, which I love. But are we not going to close up at 7? Do you want to stay on a little bit longer?
That's up to you. I just wanted to, Andrew Taylor is saying the conditioning of what Jesus was meant to stand for. Yes. And then we've begun to realize he is us, or an expression of what we can be if we align. So powerful. And that I feel like Jesus and others helping us are reaching out a hand and saying, come walk with me. Let's do this together and trust. So perfect. It is so true. Reflection of history shows us so much, how to trust in the process, not knowing the exact plan, but to trust we are being looked after and guided for highest good, no matter what appears. So there's just some lovely comments here. And the other thing is, really, you're developing a trusting relationship with self when you go inside, because there's only oneness. So you are coming face to face with your own being, your own essence when you're with God. And when you see and you understand that everything is in divine order, you can keep letting go. It doesn't mean that you try to fight, you don't fight it anymore, or you can't understand things that happen, because stuff happens. We just, we just want to, we want to get anchored into knowing that we are completely supported and taken care of always.
We have to wrap up. There's another show, and I wanted to get some other things in, but you can get in touch with Deb or I. Deb, you have a master class coming up, or you are doing a master class, right? Can you briefly talk about that?
Sure. It will be Saturday. This Saturday is the first class. It's a series of 5, and you can sign up for one of them or all 5. There's a discount if you sign up for 5 on enlightenedworld.online. And the first one will be about getting started and how do you connect within. So we'll be doing experiential meditations to help you actually connect and
Yes.
and see or hear your guidance, whatever you feel like you connect with, and work on reducing pain, healing it. The second one will be about healing the inner child. The third one is understanding our thought process of what creates all of this.
Right.
Yeah, and the fourth one is balancing energy so you stay in vibrational alignment. And the fifth one is learning how to master your internal world. So I'm really excited about all of these. They're Saturdays at 2:00 and they're 90 minutes. And so I hope to see you there.
Yes, they sound wonderful. And EWN is just doing so many wonderful things. And you can get in touch with Deb. I'm sure, well, just you want to give your, how would you like people to connect to you?
Sure. I have a website, and it's debbiengoldberg.com. Or you can Facebook Messenger me, or you can reach out through Enlightened World Network.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'll be doing some living miraculously. I mean, we can all co-create miracles. That's a fact. I've done it in my life many, many times. And my book is, one of my books is The Year of Living Miraculously. So, and also numerology, which is a great tool to find out what is your path and what is your destiny. And you can find me on EWN or MicheleLanders.com. And I think this was a great conversation. And thank you so much for being my guest, Debbie. And I hope we can do another show together because it was really good. There's so much to talk about. And everyone, please be blessed. Know that you are a perfect child of the universe. And you are loved. Don't ever forget that. So thank you all so much. And I'll see you next Thursday with Psychic Hallie Elise. So that should be exciting. Thank you. And thank you, Deb.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate your time
Thank you.
and your wisdom and love.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.